Be seated. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. One of the most interesting ways to look at a Bible passage is to ask ourselves what it does not say. For example, in the gospel lesson for today, what does Jesus not say? He does not say, if only. If only you all were more faithful, you would be the salt of the earth. This is not what he says. If only you all were more concerned with God's justice in the world to make sure people have enough to eat and a roof over their heads and they're treated with equity by the rest of society. If only you were more compassionate and you cared more, then you would be the light of the world. This is not what Jesus says. If only you all communicated better and worked together more efficiently, then you would be the salt of the earth. If only you all shared your faith more with your family and your friends and invited people to church more often, then you would be the light of the world. Jesus says this not, does he? Nope. That is not what he says. He says, you are. You are the salt of the earth. You are, right now, the light of the world. Now, in Jesus' day, salt was used for two things. It was used as a flavoring like we have nowadays. It's a taste enhancer. It makes things more swirly and rich and yummy. Okay? It was also a preservative. So they did not have refrigerators or freezers back in those days. So if you wanted to keep your food from rotting, then you could do three things. You could store it in vinegar. That made it taste great, didn't it? You could pickle it, in other words. You could dry it like grapes. You dry grapes into raisins, right? Or you could salt it like salted fish. Salt kept the food from rotting. You are the salt of the earth. You make the world have flavor. And you keep it from rotting. You are the light of the world. Now, in Jesus' day, they did not have these wonderful things we have these days. You walk into a room and you flip a switch and a light bulb comes on. Poof! No matter what time of day or night it is, you can sit there and do whatever you want for as long as you feel like it. In Jesus' day, most people woke up at dawn and went to bed at dusk, okay? Because that's when you had light. And lighting a lamp, like we just did today, that was expensive for most people who, everyday working people, very expensive. Some estimates I have read have said that it took an entire day's work of labor, a day's wages, to get the materials, the wick and the oil and everything, to have 10 minutes of artificial light. 10 minutes. Light was precious. It was expensive and beautiful and precious. And you did not hide it underneath a bushel basket. Not only might you catch the basket and your entire house on fire, but also you didn't hide yourself in the shadows. Put your lamp on a lampstand and it lit up your whole house, because your whole house was a one-room cottage, most likely. So also, you light the world. You are the light of the world. Okay. So then Jesus spends pretty much the rest of the Sermon on the Mount, which is what this is from, talking about what it means to be salt and what it means to be light. The very next part of our gospel lesson for today, Jesus says, I do not come to abolish the law. Uh-oh. Not one stroke, not one dot of the law will be revoked. I'm going to go back and look at me in Leviticus and see all the stuff I need to do right here. Uh-oh. I can't wear wool and linen at the same time. It's a law. No. Oh, wait. We're just going to look at the New Testament. Okay, we'll go over to the New Testament. Wait. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. Ladies, where are your hats? No? So what are we doing here? What is Jesus saying? Because the law is serious. The law is the means whereby God holds the universe together. We have physical laws, which are wonderful and beautiful and majestic, and we have laws of our community, how we live together. Well, immediately after the gospel lesson for today, Jesus describes his fulfillment of the law. He doesn't abolish the law, but he fulfills the law. And what does he say in the verses immediately after the gospel lesson for today? He does 5 things. He has 5 sayings that begin with, it was said unto you, okay, and then he gives a law, but I say unto you, and then he gives his interpretation or the fulfillment of the law. And if you look at them closely, you will see that Jesus goes from rules to relationship. From rules, things we have to do or else something bad will happen, to insisting on honoring the dignity of God in each other. Jesus says, it was said unto you, you shall not murder. But I say to you, if you get so furious at somebody, if you look at them with such rage that you can't think of them as a full human being and they don't really deserve the rights that any other human being has, if you can set all that aside and just kind of think of them as something subhuman that should be treated badly, then you've already committed murder. You have killed them in your heart. You've forgotten their dignity. Rules to relationship. Jesus says, it has been said to you, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, and he's talking to the guys here. Ladies, I think it applies to you all, but we can talk about that later. He says, if you look at a woman with lust in your heart, in other words, if you just want to use her body, and you don't care about what makes her laugh, what makes her cry, what her dreams are for the future, what makes her smile from her memories of the past. If you just want to use her like a rubber doll, you have already committed adultery. Thou shalt not commit adultery. It's a good rule. Thou shalt not murder. It's a good rule. Jesus takes these important, essential rules and moves them into relationship. Jesus says, it has been said to you, guys, that if you get tired of your wife, you can just give her a piece of paper and send her on her merry way. Where she can either go back to her family, or if her family will take her, if her family is still alive, if her family can afford to have her in the household, or she can be on the street. Isn't that nice? Jesus is saying, you're not going to be throwing each other away like trash. Understand each other to be made in the image of God. Jesus says, it has been said to you, do not lie under oath. But I say to you, don't lie at all. Let your yes be yes, and your no be no. Anything else is from the devil. Tell the truth, because lies kill. Jesus says, it was said unto you, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. If someone strikes you on one cheek, turn the other. Jesus says, it was said to you, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, love your enemy, pray for those who persecute you, do good to those who abuse you. It's not easy being salt or light. And we engage these commands, these fulfillments of the law, in the best way we can, in such a way that we insist on honoring the dignity of other people, even our enemies, as well as ourselves and others. In some churches, a few small churches, that means that they will not engage in any kind of violence. In the Lutheran Church, we say there is a place on the Christian landscape for defense of yourself and defense of others, but there is no place on the Christian landscape for domination, where we press other people down to show that we are better than they are. There is no place on the Christian landscape for vengeance, as if we could take back our dignity that somebody else has stolen when God has given it to us and it can't be taken away. Yes, there's a place for defense. Yeah. But even when we are in the place of defense, we insist on treating our enemies as human beings. Rules to relationships. Jesus fulfills the law by insisting that we honor one another's dignity. Jesus goes on with the rest of the Sermon on the Mount, which I'm going to tell you real quickly now because we don't get to it for the rest of the year, and that's really bad. Except for Ash Wednesday, when we will hear that we shouldn't make a show of our religion. Big old splashes on the TV. I'd love that, but no. Jesus says, do not judge, lest you be judged. Jesus says, don't worry. This is the one where it really gets me. Don't worry about what you will eat or what you will wear. Consider the lilies of the field, how they neither toil nor spin, yet Solomon in all of his glory was not clothed as one of these. And if God so clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is all dried up and thrown into the oven, how much more will God clothe you, O you folk of little faith? Yep, that is us. We are not perfect. He says, do unto others as you would have them do to you. This is the law and the prophets. All summed up in one little thing. Do to others as you would have them do to you. It's not easy being salt or light. And we do it imperfectly. But that's still what we are. It is all too easy to let ourselves be diluted to the point where nobody can tell the difference between who we are and anybody else. We have no flavor. We have no distinctiveness. We have nothing to contribute. It is too easy to hide underneath a bushel basket and let our light be kind of overshadowed by something else. But here's the good news. Paul says in our second lesson for today that the Spirit of God does not come to us by our own deeds or our own wisdom or our own power or our own choices or our own perception. The wisdom of God comes to us from the Spirit. And so it's the Spirit shining through us, not just us. It's the Spirit keeping the world from rotting, not just us. So even though we are imperfect, God works through us. For example, one day last summer, early summer, I was coming home from church. I was finishing the day at the office. I was tired and I was hungry and I was ready to go home. It was the agenda to go home and have dinner with Thine. It was great. And I looked over when I got to the corner of Kresge and Breckenridge right over there. I looked to my right and there was a guy sitting in a wheelchair on the corner who did not have any feet. He had no feet. And instead of his feet, he had very cleanly, very well bandaged nothing. His feet were nice, his legs were nicely bandaged with nothing under them. And I said to myself, why is that guy still out there with bandaged feet? Doesn't he need physical therapy? Doesn't he need prosthetics? Isn't there something that the hospital would do more for him? Did he leave the hospital on his own? What people do sometimes, they walk right out, you know? And I kind of thought maybe I should stop to help this person or see if he was okay. Did I stop to help this person and see if he was okay? No, I did not. Because I was hungry, and I was tired, and I wanted to go home. So I went home. Next day, driving into the office. And I'm driving by there on Breckenridge, and there on the corner of Dutchman's Lane and Breckenridge, on the bench next to the bus stop, laying dead off asleep, is my friend without the feet. And I let out an expletive, y'all. I will confess to you before my community, I cannot say the expletive that I let out in church. Probably shouldn't say it at any time at all. And I turned my car around and I went and parked right next to him, and I walked up to him, and he woke up and he saw me, and I said, "Would you like to have a ride somewhere?" And he said, "I need to go downtown, but I can't get in the car." And so I said, "I'll help you get in the car." This guy was so heavy. Oh my gosh. And he was so strong, his hands were like vices. And so we grabbed hold, and I heaved him over into the car, and got his wheelchair in the back, drove him downtown. He asked for money. I didn't give any money. I didn't have any money. And got him out, and hugely heavy, plopped him in the wheelchair. I wanted to say a prayer for him, which I always do, almost every time, every single time actually, except for this one. When we help somebody, when you help somebody, they say thank you, and we usually say a prayer. No prayer, no thank you, boom, off where he was going. Is that being the light of the world? Jesus never said, help only the people who are grateful. Never said that. What does Jesus not say? Jesus never said, only work with people who will pray with you. But it's the Spirit that works through us, even when we're not perfect. Thanks be to God.